The moment Abby and Devin finally accept the truth that Mariah has abducted Dominic, the realization does not arrive with shock so much as with a slow, sickening clarity that drains the air from every room they stand in. At first, both of them cling desperately to the same belief, the only one that allows them to keep functioning at all. Mariah would never hurt Dominic. She loves him too much, has always loved him too fiercely, too protectively, and even now, even in the midst of this unforgivable act, they convince themselves that he is safe, fed, comforted, spoken to softly in the night. That belief becomes the thin thread holding Abby together as hours stretch into days and every attempt to track Mariah ends in dead silence. But belief is not certainty, and certainty is what Abby needs to survive. With every passing moment, the absence of Dominic stops feeling like a mistake and starts feeling like a permanent wound, something that could define the rest of her life if she allows it. Devin watches Abby unravel in real time, sees how the terror reshapes her, stripping away the controlled, rational woman she once was and leaving behind someone raw, sharp-edged, and frighteningly focused. He tries to be the voice of restraint, to remind her that escalating the situation could put everyone in danger, especially Dominic. But fear does not listen to reason, and maternal instinct does not negotiate. Abby reaches a point where love curdles into something darker, something ruthless, and in that moment she stops being the woman who waits and becomes the woman who acts, no matter the cost. The plan Abby conceives is not born out of cruelty for cruelty's sake, but out of a brutal calculation shaped by desperation and grief. She knows Mariah's weakness as well as anyone, knows that Dominic is not the only person Mariah loves to the point of self-destructs. Tessa is the other half of that equation, the emotional anchor Mariah has never truly let go of, no matter how much distance or time has passed. Abby understands, with horrifying clarity, that Mariah may be willing to sacrifice everything for Dominic, including her own freedom. But she will not be able to endure the suffering of the woman she once loved. That is the leverage, the one card Abby believes will force Mariah's hand when nothing else has worked. Devin recoils when Abby reveals her plan, because even in Genoa City, even among people who have crossed unforgivable lines before, this feels like a step into something irreversible. Kidnapping a child is one thing, kidnapping an adult as a bargaining chip is another. But Abby's eyes are already beyond persuasion, fixed on an outcome where Dominic is back in her arms and the nightmare ends. She convinces herself that Tessa will not be harmed if Mariah cooperates quickly, that this is merely a pressure tactic, a necessary evil in a world that has already shown her no mercy. Devin hesitates, torn between his horror at Abby's resolve and his own suffocating fear of losing Dominic forever, and that hesitation becomes his silent consent. The line is crossed not with a dramatic declaration, but with a quiet, terrible decision that changes all of them. Tessa never sees it coming. One moment she is living inside grief and disbelief, struggling to reconcile the Mariah she loves with the crime she cannot excuse. And the next she is being dragged into a nightmare she does not understand until it is too late. The terror is immediate and visceral, the kind that steals breath and turns thought into noise. She is restrained, isolated, and confronted with the horrifying realization that she has become a pawn in a war she never wanted to be part of. Every instinct in her screams that this is wrong, that Abby has gone too far, that using her as leverage will only destroy whatever remains of Mariah's fragile stability. Yet her fear is layered with something even more painful, a sense of tragic inevitability. Tessa knows Mariah too well to pretend she does not understand why this is happening. She knows that love, when twisted by trauma and abandonment, can become dangerous, and she knows that she herself has always been Mariah's emotional weak point. As the hours pass, the reality of her captivity sinks in, and with it comes the unbearable weight of knowing that her life now hangs on a decision Mariah has not yet made. When Abby finally makes the call, her voice is stripped of warmth, stripped even of anger, reduced to something chillingly calm. She does not threaten loudly or rage, she states facts. Tessa is with her, Dominic will be returned. If that does not happen, Tessa will die. The words land like gunshots, each one precise, deliberate, and impossible to misunderstand. There is no room for negotiation, no room for moral argument, no illusion that this is a bluff. Abby has reached the point where she believes fear is the only language left. On the other end of the line, Mariah's world implodes. The sound of Abby's voice, so cold and controlled, confirms what Mariah has dreaded since the moment she took Dominic, that the people she hurt would eventually strike back. And they would do it where it hurt her most. As the phone is handed to Tessa, the illusion that Mariah can still manage this situation shatters completely. Tessa's voice breaks through the line, Ryan desperate, sobbing, pleading, apologizing all at once. She begs Mariah to forgive her, not for anything she has done, but simply for existing in this moment, for being the reason Mariah is being forced into an impossible choice. Her cries are not just fear for her own life, they are fear for Mariah's soul, fear that the woman she loves will be destroyed no matter what she chooses. Mariah collapses under the weight of it. Panic floods her system, obliterating the fragile structure she has built around herself to justify her actions. Every rationalization she has clung to disintegrates as she hears Tessa's terror, because suddenly this is no longer about Dominic alone. This is about the two great loves of her life colliding in the most violent way imaginable. On one side is Dominic, the child she believes she rescued, the symbol of her worth, her purpose, her proof that she matters and that her love can change the world. On the other side is Tessa, the woman who knows her history, her darkness, her softness, the one person who has loved her without trying to own her. Mariah's mind fractures under the strain, replaying memories in rapid, merciless flashes, Tessa's laughter, Dominic's small hands. The promises she made to herself that she would never become the villain in someone else's story. She realizes, with horrifying clarity, that the fantasy she has been living in where she is the only one who truly loves Dominic, where she is his protector and savior has led her here. To a place where her love now endangers everyone she has ever cared about. The choice before her is unbearable in its cruelty. If she holds on to Dominic, if she refuses to give him up, she condemns Tessa to death and accepts that the woman she loves will die because of her obsession. If she gives Dominic back, she loses the one thing she believes gives her life meaning and admits that everything she has done was wrong, that her sacrifice was never noble, only destructive. There is no path that does not end in loss, no outcome where Mariah emerges unbroken. She screams, she sobs, she bargains with herself, with Abby, with whatever higher power she has never truly trusted, but the truth remains immovable. This is the cost of the line she crossed. This is the price of believing that love alone justifies anything. The phone call becomes a crucible, burning away Mariah's illusions and forcing her to confront who she has become. The emotional confrontation that unfolds in that suspended moment decides more than the immediate fate of Dominic and Tessa. It decides who Mariah will be for the rest of her life. Whether she is the woman who lets a child go to save the person she loves, or the woman who allows someone to die to preserve her fantasy. Whether she chooses accountability or doubles down on delusion. Abby, waiting in silence, believes she has already won, convinced that no mother, no matter how unhinged by love, would sacrifice another life for her own obsession. Devin, watching Abby from the shadows, feels the weight of what they have done pressing down on his chest, knowing that even if Dominic comes home, nothing will ever be clean again. And Tessa, trapped and terrified, clings to the hope that somewhere inside Mariah, the woman who once chose love over fear still exists. Still has the strength to do the right thing even if it destroys her. In that moment, suspended between screams and silence, between past and future, everything balances on Mariah's next move. Dominic's safety, Tessa's life, and Mariah's soul are all bound together in a single, irreversible decision. Whatever choice she makes will not end the story, it will redefine it. And when the call finally ends, when the silence returns, the world they all knew will already be gone. Replaced by the wreckage of love turned into a weapon and desperation given the power to decide who lives and who is lost forever. The air in the cottage was stifling, heavy with the scent of stale coffee and unwashed anxiety. Tessa Porter stood in the center of the living room, her hands trembling as she gripped the back of Sharon's floral armchair. Her eyes, usually bright with music and life, were hollowed out by sleeplessness. "I can't do this alone anymore," Tessa whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of her confession. She looked from Sharon Newman to Daniel Romalotti, who was leaning against the mantel, his expression guarded. "I'm filing for divorce. I have to, but that doesn't mean I want her dead, and it doesn't mean I want Dominic to get hurt. You have to help me." Sharon sat forward, her instincts as a mother warring with the shock of Tessa's admission. Divorce, Tessa, I know Mariah has been. And well, but she's gone, Sharon. Really gone this time, Tessa interrupted, tears finally spilling over. She took Dominic. And if the police find her before we do, they won't see a sick woman. They'll see a kidnapper. I need you to help me bring them home before it's too late. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, his gaze darting between the two women. The history in the room was palpable, layers of trauma involving Cassie, the recent framing incident with Heather, and years of jagged scar tissue. Tessa, we'll find them, Daniel said, his voice low but firm, but we need to know everything. Has she contacted anyone? No, Tessa shook her head, but I saw Abby earlier, at the Chancellor estate. Sharon frowned. Abby, she must be out of her mind with worry. That's just it, Tessa said, her eyes narrowing. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't crying. She looked guilty. She was hiding her phone when I walked in. And she practically pushed me out the door. It didn't feel like a grieving mother. It felt like a cover-up. Sharon exchanged a bewildered look with Daniel. Abby Newman was many things, but a conspirator in her own son's kidnapping seemed impossible. Yet, the desperation in Tessa's voice was infectious. If Abby knows where they are, Sharon said slowly, standing up to pace the small room, and she's not telling the police, she's trying to protect Mariah. She thinks she can handle this on her own. Or she's being blackmailed, Daniel suggested, his tech-savvy mind already worrying through scenarios. If Mariah is unstable, she might be threatening Abby. Or worse, someone else is pulling the strings. Sharon stopped pacing and looked at Daniel. The tension that usually existed between them, the ghost of Cassie, the recent betrayal regarding Heather, seemed to evaporate in the face of the immediate crisis. We have to put everything else aside, she said, her blue eyes locking onto his. For Dominic. For Mariah. Can we do that? Daniel held her gaze for a beat, then nodded. Yeah, we can. I can track Abby. Do it, Sharon commanded. Daniel pulled his laptop from his bag, setting it up on the coffee table amidst the clutter of mucks. His fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing standard firewalls with the ease of someone who had spent years in the gaming and tech industry. If Abby is communicating with Mariah, there's a digital footprint, burner phones, encrypted apps. She's not a spy, she'll leave a trail. Tessa watched in silence, her arms wrapped around herself, while Sharon stood over Daniel's shoulder. The silence was punctuated only by the rhythmic clacking of keys. Got her, Daniel muttered after 10 agonizing minutes. She's not at the estate. Her GPS signal is moving, but her cloud backup's just since the location tag from a text message sent 20 minutes ago. It's a pin drop. A motel off Route 12. Way out past the city limits. The hideaway motor court. That's in the middle of nowhere, Sharon breathed, a cold dread settling in her stomach. Why would Abby be sending coordinates there? She's going to meet them, Tessa realized, horror dawning on her face. She's going to trade herself for Dominic, or give Mariah money to run. She's going to make it worse. We have to beat her there, Daniel said, slamming the laptop shut. If Abby walks into a volatile situation with Mariah in this state, it could go wrong fast. The drive to the hideaway motor court was a blur of gray highway and silent tension. Sharon sat in the passenger seat, mentally rehearsing every de-escalation technique she had learned as a therapist. She wasn't just a mother today. She was a negotiator. She had to be. She might not be alone, Sharon said softly, breaking the silence as the dilapidated neon sign of the motel came into view. Tessa said Mariah has been talking to people who aren't there. If she's hallucinating Ian Ward again. Ian, Daniel gripped the steering wheel tighter. I thought he was dead. To Mariah, he's very much alive, Sharon replied grimly. And if he's the voice in her ear, he'll be telling her to hurt Dominic to get back at the Newmans. We have to be careful. They parked the car 100 yards down the road, hidden by a cluster of overgrown pines. The motel was a U-shaped relic of the 50s, peeling paint and rusted railings. In the parking lot, they spotted Abby's car empty. She's already inside, Daniel whispered. I'll take the lead, Sharon said. Daniel, you circle back, find the window. If things go south, your priority is Dominic. Get him out. Daniel nodded, moving silently into the shadows of the tree line. Sharon smoothed her coat, took a deep breath, and walked toward the room where the curtains were drawn tight. She didn't knock. She turned the handle locked and then heard the raised voices inside. "You promised." It was Abby's voice, shrill with panic. "I brought the cash, Mariah. Just give him to me. He's not safe with you." Mariah's voice was unrecognizable, distorted by paranoia and rage. "He told me what you'd do. Ian told me you'd turn him into one of them. A human puppet." Sharon kicked the door near the lock, the old wood splintering with a loud crack, and shoved it open. The scene inside was a nightmare to behold. The room was dim, lit only by the flickering television. Dominic was sitting on the bed, clutching a stuffed bear, looking terrified but physically unharmed. Abby stood near the door, a duffel bag at her feet, her hands raised in surrender. And Mariah was pacing the far corner, a wild look in her eyes, gesturing to an empty chair as if arguing with a ghost. "Sharon," Abby gasped, turning around. "What are you doing here? You'll ruin everything." "I'm here to help, Abby," Sharon said calmly, stepping into the room and closing the broken door behind her. She kept her eyes fixed on her daughter. "Mariah." Mariah spun around, her body rigid. "You brought them," she hissed, her gaze darting to the empty corner again. "He said you would. Ian said you'd come to take my baby away." "Ian isn't here, Mariah," Sharon said, her voice steady and soothing, though her heart hammered against her ribs. She took a slow step forward. "It's just us. Look at me. It's Mom." "He's right there," Mariah screamed, pointing at the empty air. "He says you're lying. He says you never loved me, that you only care about your perfect life." "That's not true," Sharon said, injecting every ounce of maternal love she possessed into her tone. "I love you. Tessa loves you. She's worried sick about you. She wants you to come home." "Tessa left me," Mariah sobbed, the anger momentarily fracturing into grief. "She wants a divorce. Ian said she hates me." Outside the window, Daniel moved with the precision of a thief. He saw Dominic on the bed, isolated from the adults. The window latch was rusted, but he had a pocket knife. He worked the blade under the sash, praying the noise of the argument would mask the sound. "Tessa is hurt, but she doesn't hate you," Sharon continued, inching closer to the bed, placing herself between Mariah and Dominic. "She wants you to get better, but taking Dominic, this isn't the way. If you walk out of here with him, there's no coming back. Prison, Mariah. Real prison, not the one in your head." Mariah clutched her head, rocking back and forth. "He says it's the only way to save him. The Newmans ruin everything they touch. I have to save him." "You are saving him," Sharon said softly, "by giving him back to his mother. Look at Abby. Look at her face, Mariah. That's a mother who loves her son, just like I love you." Abby remained frozen, tears streaming down her face, smart enough to let Sharon handle the break. Suddenly, the window sash gave way with a metallic clunk. Mariah whipped her head around, her eyes widening as she saw Daniel climbing over the sill. "Traitor!" she shrieked, lunging toward the bed. "Daniel, now!" Sharon shouted, abandoning her calm demeanor. Daniel vaulted into the room, scooping Dominic up in one fluid motion. The little boy cried out, burying his face in Daniel's shoulder. Mariah scrambled over the mattress, her hands reaching for the child, but Sharon intercepted her, wrapping her arms around her daughter's waist and tackling her onto the other side of the bed. "Let me go, Ian, help me," Mariah screamed, thrashing violently against Sharon's grip. "Go, get him out of here," Sharon yelled to Daniel. Daniel didn't hesitate. He unlocked the main door and bolted out into the cool night air, clutching Dominic tightly to his chest. Abby followed close behind, grabbing the duffel bag and stumbling into the parking lot. Inside the room, the struggle de-escalated into a heartbreaking embrace. Sharon held on as Mariah fought, her screams turning into guttural sobs of defeat. "It's okay," Sharon whispered into Mariah's hair, rocking her as they lay on the tangled sheets. "I've got you. I've got you. He's gone. Ian is gone. It's just us." Mariah's body went limp, the energy draining out of her as the hallucination faded, leaving her alone with the crushing reality of what she had done. "Mom," she choked out, her voice small and broken. "What did I do?" Sharon soothed, tears finally falling from her own eyes. "We're going to fix it, but you have to come back to us first." Outside, under the harsh glare of the motel security light, Daniel handed Dominic to a trembling Abby. She fell to her knees, hugging the boy so tight it looked like she might merge with him. "Thank you," Abby wept, looking up at Daniel. "Thank you." Daniel exhaled a breath he felt like he'd been holding for years. He looked back at the open door of the motel room, where Sharon was slowly helping a weeping Mariah to her feet. The police sirens were distant, a faint wail on the wind, but for a moment, the silence between the four adults was the loudest thing in the world. Dominic was safe. The physical danger had passed. But as Sharon led a shattered Mariah out into the night, leaving Tessa's devastated gaze near the car, it was clear that the real rescue mission had only just begun. The road back for Mariah, for Tessa, and for the fragile trust between them all stretched out endlessly into the dark.